Hi, everybody. I'm Deneen Garrett, the creator and founder of the An Intimate Conversation with Women of Color podcast, which is sponsored by Deneen Consults. This podcast was created to provide women of color a platform to use our voices. So thank you so much for stopping by and enjoy today's episode. Welcome to another episode of An Intimate Conversation with Women of Color. I am your host, Deneen L. Garrett, and today's guest is Rita Kakati-Shah. She's an author, founder, and CEO, international speaker, and board advisor. Rita is also a multi-award-winning gender, diversity, inclusion, and career strategist, advisor to Fortune 500 companies, an author, and a TV show host. Rita, what else would you like to share with the audience?
Well, Deneen, thank you for having me here today. It's such an honor, it really is. And I just love living life and just love being on the show. So thank you so much for having me. So yeah, just let's get going.
All right, awesome. And you know what? So we're in the kitchen for those who are watching, right? So we have folks who are either watching on YouTube or listening on their favorite podcast platform. So make sure that you're subscribing. And you probably really want to check out YouTube so you can see us in the kitchen having a good time. So let's go ahead and just jump right into it. So, I've already mentioned that you've worked in corporate. So you have years working in corporate. What led you to branch out on your own to create UMA, which is an international diversity and inclusion coaching, consultant, and corporate training platform?
Great question. I always believe in serendipity and everything happens in life for a reason. And that's really ultimately what led to the starting of UMA. So as you mentioned, I started actually my career in the world of finance. I'm from the UK, born and bred Londoner. In case the accent hasn't
couldn't tell. Yeah, couldn't tell.
Can't tell. And I started my career in finance, and I was on the trading floor. And this was back in the early 2000s when DEI wasn't really a thing. It wasn't an official term. But I just fell into it because I was a woman of color. I was on the trading floor in a very male-dominated space. And, it was just by falling into just being the one of or the first of in so many situations. And I'm a people person. I love connecting. I'm social. Like meeting people. I'm like, I know there's other women at the firm. I met them on my training program. We see each other in just different events and things. Well, where are they? I want to connect. So I just try trying to connect people together. That's really how I fell into the space. So I moved around different sort of avatars at the firm. But during my 10 years there, it was just everything, the threads that linked my journey together at Goldman was really sort of just connecting and getting folks of different colors and backgrounds and, cultures together, just because that's just what the right thing to do was. And then, following that, I transitioned into the healthcare industry. That, again, was another serendipitous moment. A family friend approached me one day. I studied at King's College London. A family friend was the former chair of the Institute of Psychiatry at King's College London and was like, hey, I'm setting up something to do with clinical trials and drug development in Delaware. Can you come and help me, Rita? You've got a business background. My first question, Deneen, is what's Delaware? Not where is it? I'm like,
right, what is it?
A bar of chocolate? Is it some sort of soap brand? Like, what is this new thing? Little did I know. But, long story short, that's how I got my feet wet in a completely different industry. I was in business development in the pharmaceutical world. I've always loved to travel. So it took me here, there, and everywhere around the world, meeting sort of key opinion leaders and folks on the cutting edge of psychiatry and neurology, which I absolutely loved. Those travels brought me to New York, which is now, home for me. I met my now husband, settled, have two children now who are now 7 and 9. They're not really that little anymore, but we're really young. That's when I took some time off specifically to raise them. And I've got to tell you, Deneen, out of all of the jobs I've ever done, I thought banking was tough. Sometimes working pretty much close to 24/7 at times, or traveling multiple time zones in the pharmaceutical industry was tough. And yes, it was. That was nothing compared to this new role of mine, like this full, being a mom.
Yeah.
I took my own mom for granted until I became my mom. And I'm like, wow, there is just so much to it. You are always on the go.
Always.
Always sleep deprived. You can never take a day off. No sick day off. it's the sad animal line. Oh, it doesn't work that way. You know, just things like that. You learn a lot. But I also realized that there were so many skills I picked up in this journey of motherhood, such as, you know, I became a better communicator because I thought communication was, I can put together a presentation or I can stand in front of a room of people until I had my kids. These little babies, they can't talk when they're little.
Right.
You got to have empathy. You got to be able to listen. That's all communication, you know. And I learned these because of my new role. And these skills I learned are actually directly transferable into the paid workforce. Except I didn't learn these skills in the paid workforce. I learned them when I left. So that, to me, I learned a lot. That and, you know, how to negotiate, things like that. You know, negotiate with toddlers. Take on anyone.
Right. Please eat this.
Tidy up your room, whatever it is. So little things like that taught me a lot. And then I saw that there was this big gap of this untapped market, this incredible pool of talented folks out there, these women and folks from other minority groups that felt very, very similar void and connectivity, and yet had so much to offer back in the paid workforce. And that's really why I helmed and started UMA, my company, which I named after the Hindu goddess of go-getting.
Oh.
Because she's a mother, she's a daughter, she's a sibling, she is a wife. So she really depicts a lot of roles that we have as women, as we have as folks in the world. But it was really powerful meaning, but also short and sweet. So that's why I called the company UMA. And really, it's, you know, a coach. I build up the empowerment, confidence, all of these skills we all have, all of these women and minority folks have already. I'm just helping to just sort of bring them out to the surface, like get people to like love that inner self of them, you know? So yeah, that's sort of in a nutshell how I'm doing what I'm doing now.
You know, I love that. And I love what UMA, what it means. I want to kind of, you know, spend a little time of just pointing out some differences. So you were in the UK, you were in corporate and finance. You moved to the US, a little place called Delaware. I've been there, so I know what it looks like. And it is small, right? It's like almost a little blip. But then, you know, so you transfer to a new country, you know, new city and state, and then a new environment, work environment. So what were like the cultural differences? Like, what do you think was the main thing that you needed to navigate as a woman of color from the UK and from finance?
You know, it's such a great question. So when I actually first moved to Dunedin, I actually became really homesick. Okay. And I didn't know I was homesick. I didn't know what that was. It wasn't really a thing, but I didn't know that I would be because I've always traveled.
Yeah.
But there's a big difference with traveling and, you know, coming out of a suitcase and always going back to base to up and leaving, getting that one-way ticket. And then there were little things, and I don't know if it was like just being a woman or, you know, a person of color, or just a person that moved. Yeah. Because when I first got little things, so when I got here, I was in a yellow taxi, got to New York City, and you know, paid the driver or whatnot, and then he uttered something under his breath like "learn to speak English," and I'm like, "Whoa, I am English! Like, what do you mean by that? Like, you know?" So hey, well, I didn't say that because that was there. Now it would have been a different story. But, you know, so I didn't know. So that was my first welcome, so to speak, the unwelcome welcome. And then little things like, you know, I got very delved right into my work. And then I thought, you know what, I've got a UK American Express. Let me get myself an American Express, you know, get myself an American credit card. Applied, and then it was rejected. I'm like, whoa, what do you mean it's rejected? I've been an Amex user or a credit card user for years, but I didn't have any credit history in the US. I come from a finance background. I know that. But the reality is that, you know, when you have to build everything from scratch. Yeah. The first thing you do is you've got to sign up for social security numbers. You're paying taxes from day one. Mm. Yeah, you don't feel that sort of sense of belonging. When you first come to the country, I remember I was thinking, oh, which line do I stand in? Oh, back then it was aliens. And an alien is a term used. You're not even a human. You're not even from planet Earth. Forget color, race, culture. You're not even from this planet. And I'm like, whoa, hi, welcome to America. You just didn't feel that. Yeah. I was like, you know, I come from the UK. And although I got brought up with a very Assamese background, my parents are from Assam, Northeast India, you know, I was British. And I remember when I moved here in April 2011, it was around the time of Wills and Kate's The Royal Wedding. Normally, if I'd been in the UK, I probably would have watched it in the background. But after I moved here, I just became really sort of patriotic. It was something to hold on to. I suddenly think, gosh, this is something that meant something that I didn't realize it until I left.
Right.
And I remember like showing up at Brooklyn Bridge at 4 a.m. to catch the 9 a.m. because it was 9 a.m. in the UK, 5 hours ahead, to watch that wedding and getting it recorded on Time Warner and just getting it on the DVR to watch it again and again. I'm like, gosh, this is a lot. So there's just a lot of things you don't realize.
Yeah.
For me, it was keeping my independence, really. You know, I was now a +1.
Mm-hmm.
I was on my spousal green card initially. And that was the first thing. I thought, you know, I've always been a strong, independent woman, you know, doing my thing. And then suddenly coming here, credit card rejected, very reliant on being the +1. I had to be added on to this. So I had to do this. So it felt like, I just felt I couldn't be me.
Yeah.
Initially. I had to like almost seek permission. I felt like, you know, the little things like being called an alien or, you know, being said, you know, not understood fully because of my accent. And I have a British accent and I'm being told I can't speak English. I'm like, this is just bizarre to me, you know?
Right.
Yeah, so it took me some time and I got into the groove and, you know, met friends and whatnot. But really took some time, Deneen. I've got to tell you, it wasn't easy.
Yeah, I bet it's so many different things that you know, had to navigate. And so here I'm thinking of several, which is a lot. The ones that I called out, that's a lot. But then having to add these other things that, you know, you just shared, especially the one being, you know, alien, like what kind of term, you know, have to love our country, the US, because we do a great job othering people, right? We we let people know that they're different. We do a great job, and I am being, you know, facetious and sarcastic by that, but we do, you know, folks don't. I remember being in a situation, a woman, she was from an island, and, you know, she's like, oh, I didn't know I was Black until I came here, right? Because, you know, she was whatever that island was, she was that, you know. And so, you know, and that's the point that I'm making around that. So what you're talking about really, you know, jumps into the next part of what I want to mention, which is what are some of your successes around UMA, empowering confidence, inspiring success, and building leadership and resilience in women and minorities around the world?
Gosh, thank you for that question. I'm actually going to share another personal story to kind of address that because I think everything happens for that reason. So when I first moved here, I went to a networking event, and that networking event was, you know, from different, you know, you come from different parts of the world and whatnot. And I literally got sort of directed to the corner where there were other folks that just arrived from India. So you know, I have Indian heritage. But you know, India is, you know, made up with so many different cultures, languages, communities,
religions.
Yeah, exactly. But I was born and brought up in the UK, so culturally, environmentally, I'm very British. But I got put there, and I'm, you know, having a chat. I get along with everybody, so we're chatting along. But the minute I heard like an English accent, boom, from the other end of the room, I just wanted to just turn and just run, and I kind of did subtly. I was like, oh, let me just, you know, go to the bathroom and just never return, kind of thing, you know, and I just went to the other way. But that's the point, and this is why I got into the work I'm doing, because people just assume when they look at you, the color of your skin, or they look at the color of your hair, or maybe something, or just think you're different or don't have the accent that we have, we're just going to pigeonhole them in that category.
Yes.
And this is where intersectionality comes in. This is where just diversity comes in, and that sense of belonging, and that who you are in culture. People forget about the word culture when you talk about DEI and things like that. And I was an example of that, this networking event, which was to help folks feel assimilated, and we got peeps here that are from where you are. In a way, was the extreme opposite for me, right? Yeah. So I think that's one of the reasons I got into this world and this line. So when I have my clients with UMA, when I go to companies, the first thing I do is like, don't pigeonhole, don't jump to conclusion. Some people come to me and say, Rita, can UMA sort of put together some leadership training or some unconscious bias training or this training for us? I'm like, totally can do that, but it's need to be on a case basis. I need to find out where is the lead coming from rather than trying to stick a band-aid on. Because quite oftentimes you're going to find that if you analyze, you take the time to listen, to observe what's going on, that actually that case of unconscious bias, there is something going on there, but it's actually a bit of a blip with communication. That person's a little bit close because that's not how you communicate. Or it could be something little like, you walk into the room and somebody's typing an email and they're like, yeah, I'm listening, carry on. Right. And you're like, whoa, I'm trying to tell you that I don't feel like I belong here. And that was what I'm about to tell you, but you're not even looking at me. Whereas that person didn't even think, and they're also doing that at home, and they might have family and whatnot, and that just carries on in a cycle. So just little things like that. There is so much to it. So when I talk about this whole leadership training, DEI space, a lot of it just goes back to basics. Do you feel valued? Do you feel like you belong?
Right.
Treat people with respect, with empathy, like the human. Just be kind, look at someone, smile at them, pause, listen before you speak back.
Yeah.
It's little things that count. And that's really the crux, I would say, the backbone of what UMA is about.
That's awesome. And you know what? And I always be willing to learn. You know, I had, so when I was in diversity and inclusion, I owned strategy for the Hispanic, Latino, LGBTQ plus, and Native American segments. And with the, and I brought a organization to the company that provided leadership development specifically for Hispanic, Latino employees. And they were happy to be a part of it. They were happy to have it. They loved it, you know, being able to receive this from people who are like them and for them, right? Then I also brought an LGBTQ plus professional development program. And I just thought they were going to feel the same way. Like you know, that they were just going to be so psyched and excited to have this learning, this curriculum from someone who's also LGBTQ plus, and it was different. And so that was learning for me, not to make those assumptions that that is what, you know, they're looking for. It's interesting because a lot of them, they were like, you know, they're looking at the professional development piece, period, specific. It being from LGBTQ plus for LGBTQ plus, that was kind of secondary. Whereas with the Hispanic Latino, because family is very important to them. And I think that's a little bit more why it resonated with them, right? Being around other people like them. And so it was an eye opener for me, right? A learning experience to really hone in and know your audience. So when you're doing something for someone, because I'm big on that, I want to learn from you what you want instead of me just going out and doing it for you. I want to hear from you. But this one was, you know, and it wasn't so much that it was a misstep, because it was only maybe one or two people who felt that way. To other, you know, others were like, yeah, we're happy for this. But just to be that awareness.
Yeah. No, oh, I love that you shared that. You know, I've got another example in one of my trainings. You're totally right. It's not one size fits all.
Right.
I'll give you an example. You know, when you hear that phrase, where you from, right? You ask someone that in the UK, we love hearing it. Like, yes, like, and when someone asks me where you're from, I can't wait to talk about my, you know, my British roots, my Assamese heritage, because everyone said, what's Assam, where's that from? I can't wait to tell them, well, it's from Northeast India, we have tea, we have silk. So I love it. You know, but when I go to, like, you know, come to the States or something, or I'm doing some training in the West Coast, and I was giving them this example of how certain folks love it. And they were like, whoa, whoa, whoa. And I asked them the same question back. They're like, what do you mean, where am I from? I'm from here. Like, you know, this. So it's a very much like, depending on your background and where you actually come from and what cultural nuances brought you here, it can have a really different connotation. So to your point, research your audience, learn, observe first. I like giving the example first. What is the context? Why I'm asking a question, so people don't misinterpret. So when I'm asking that question, I'm like, hey, I come from the UK, my family's from Northeast India. Well, how about you? You know, so you're volunteering it first and you're giving them the context of what you're asking, like literally just making conversation because you're curious rather than like you're questioning somebody's immigration status, you know? So it's such an interesting, multifaceted arena that it's just, I love it.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Because with that, you know, typically here, the intent behind it is not being curious, right? Which you've experienced and which you've learned as well, just in the work that you're doing. So the intent is not, they're not just like, oh, you know, I want to learn about. No, it's usually not that. So yes, context is important. Absolutely. So, you know, you kind of mentioned it earlier when you were talking about yourself, and not in a sense for you, what I heard, it wasn't that you didn't, you know, you weren't tapping into your power. It was shifted for you, right? You had your own power, but then when you came, you were a +1, so that was shifted. But for whatever reason, there are Black and women of color who don't tap into their power, or they don't recognize that they have voices. What 3 things would you tell them to help them to embrace their power as well as their voices?
Yeah, it's a great question. It's going to sound a little cliche when I tell you this, though. So for Uma, when I set up Uma, I set up like a tagline, and I'm going to talk you through why I set up that tagline. It's be bold, be you, be Uma. Okay. That be bold is when you come from wherever you come from, you are bringing you with you. It's your unique self. Nobody can mimic that. No one can be that. It's always going to be with you. So that's that be bold. You just be who you are. Just that's who you are, that boldness, that sort of mental attitude when you go there. Be you. We are so used to, especially women of color, we're used to trying to fit into boxes because, oh, you can't sit this way, you can't do this, oh, what are people going to say? It's all of what other people are thinking or what they might say to mimic how you should act. And we were grown up, brought up in that sort of an environment. And because of that, you forget who you are a lot. So when I say be bold, number one, that be you. Who are you? What do you feel like doing in the situation? What is that gut instinct? That first thing before you think, oh, what would others say? Yeah. Think about that, because that is ultimately who you are. And then be Uma, be that inner goddess of go-getting. That person that is kind, compassionate, confident, determined, right? You don't just go out there and just be totally kind of, overly loud about the situation, but just be, kind and compassionate. Be you, be bold, but just don't forget the skills of sort of listening first, being empathetic, and that inner goddess that's already inside of you. So those are the three things I would say.
I really like the be Uma, so I'm going to definitely look that up after we're done. I love that. And are you saying go get itness, like go get it?
Yeah. Actually,
so I really love that.
Go get it. So I call it the goddess of go-getting. And actually, I published a book earlier this year called The Goddess of Go-Getting.
Okay.
Because of the symbolism of what that means. Because I called Uma, I named my company because I named Uma after a Hindu goddess, because she had all of these skills, and she just sort of went out there, and she literally is the goddess of go-getting. She kind of just got it, and you see people out there are role models that have bits of those, and it's those inspirations. I think we should sort of see who are those and what are those nuggets of wisdom we can pick from different folks out there to kind of put in our own arsenal, our own little bucket, our own little goddess bucket, so we can pull out when we need,
Oh no, I definitely love that. The go get it. I'm all about all of that. And by the way, I want to shout out Jennifer Witter, because Jennifer actually did share earlier in the year, and actually it might have been the end of last year, about your book. So congratulations on that. Congratulations on the Goddess of Go-Getting. I love it. I love it. So I want to pivot a little bit. So for my sister passed in October 2020, and ever since I kind of honor her by including her in my podcast. And so she wrote a book, Dreams Deferred. And when you hear that term, or rather share a dream deferred moment of yours.
Thank you for sharing that, Janine. And I think what a beautiful, memory. You're trying to make something so positive out of this. I would say for me, what dreams deferred mean. So I'll give you my personal example. When I was young, I always used to love, I have a creative side, I should say. I used to love dancing, and I used to love painting, just doing creative things. And, when you work, when you get tied up with different things in life, and then, there's always something that kind of stops that side of you. And I find for me, if I don't sort of have that side, that's not me. When I talk about that goddess of go-getting, being who you are, I can't be me unless I'm fully me. So as now I've obviously grown up, or like wisdom has taken over as I'm experiencing life more, one of my dreams is to actually find me again. And part of that is just dancing again. I've always done cultural dances, and I love like Assamese dance, I love Latin American dances, I love the music. It's really ultimately what grounds me, what makes me, what sort of gives me that go-gettingness, I would say. So what of that, I would say for me personally, is just dancing and getting my creative artistry side of me out again, because I'm starting to work on that now. It's making such a difference to my life, how I am as a parent to my kids, how I am as a wife, as a friend, as a person, as a daughter to my friends. It's really making a difference. So when I talk about dreams deferred, those are my dreams that have been deferred that I'm now finally reliving right now.
I love that. I love that. And you know what? And I'm glad that you mentioned dancing because, you know, when I would talk to people and say, using your voice, it's however, creatively that you use your voice. So it could be writing, it could, be song, and it definitely could be dancing. So beautiful ways of expression. I absolutely love that. So my final question is around the focus of 2020 for me. So for me, it's been about live a dream lifestyle. And I've actually even made a business out of it, right? So now I coach people to live a dream lifestyle. So when what does live a dream lifestyle mean to you? And how are you living a dream lifestyle beyond what you've already shared?
And that's another great question. I would say the first thing is when you talk about dream life, we always aspire to that dream. And if you could always aspire, sometimes you think, oh gosh, I can never do this because you're always wishing for the ultimate and the ultimate never comes. So I would say for me, it's just the little things.
Yeah.
And that's what is now making me live my quote unquote dream lifestyle. So, we've literally just moved. We've moved to a house from births, and we have little things like the kids aren't fighting so much because they have their own room. That to me, that's a dream come true. Right. So things like that. Enjoy those moments rather than, oh, but I haven't got any furniture yet because we just moved in. I'm just thinking about the little things and the little achievements. That is the dream lifestyle. If you appreciate what you have, really appreciate it. It's always the little things. If you always look at who has got, the haves and have-nots and all whatnot, are they truly happy? They're always striving for something more. So I think look for what you have. It's the little things. Oh, I managed to have a hot cup of tea today. Woohoo! It's the little things,
Right.
I actually did my biscuit and it didn't dunk and fall apart,
Absolutely, recognizing them and celebrating them. Someone had asked last week, like, what thing happened to you or nice thing that happened to you this weekend? My response was someone called just to say, hey, I'm just calling to check on you. That's a little thing, but it's huge for someone to take their now. She didn't text me. She made a point to say, I'm not texting you, I'm actually calling you. And that's huge for someone to take their time to call you and just say, hey, I'm just calling to check on you. A beautiful thing. So I love it. I love it. All right. So before we wrap, what would you like to leave the audience with?
Oh gosh, I'm so inspired by you, Deneen, honestly. So thank you for doing what you're doing. But I would just sort of like really reiterate the fact, when I talk about those three words, like be bold, those are really the motto. That is the motto I live by. And it actually works. When you think of it, it's almost like a mantra. You say it, you become it. Right. So I would just love to end on that note. Don't forget to ever be bold, be you, and be Uma.
Love it, love it, love it. Rita, thank you so very much for your time and your perspective, getting to know you. I so appreciate you. And again, our audience who are watching on YouTube or who are listening on your favorite platform, make sure you subscribe and share it with other people. We thank you so much and see you next time. Bye, everybody.